There's something wrong with me. An emptiness.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Hi, this is Victor Lucas from the Electric Playground. Ta-da! I know that was a cheap trick, folks, just like that great rock band from America. But Bungie, are they in deep doo-doo at the moment? Because this was the same studio responsible for the original Halo games, topping it off with Halo Reach, who actually had the idea for this ridiculous named game called Marathon all the way back in 1999. Bungie might have given us Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, but after that, nobody sees them as a serious contender on the video game front. And if you don't know the news story, folks, there is an artist who, from 2017, calling herself N2, but also has the fucking pronouns in her bio, is now maybe taking legal action against Bungie, because guess what, folks? They've stolen her artwork and used the decals of her portfolio, her online and digital portfolio, in the Marathon game, in the trailer, which you can see in all its 4K glory. But honestly, this gameplay trailer is such an abomination on the eyes. I would rather look at Miss Alexa Bliss right behind me, because my golly, I feel like I need a bit of a motorboating session right now, but I can't do that because I know what YouTube are going to do to me. So let's get on with it, folks. And by the way, Bungie, if I were you, I would just absolutely retire and decide who you're going to fire. Unintentional rhyming, but hey, you know what? That's what I'm all about, folks. The unintentional.
We're doing a very broad decal audit, and if we locate any other details or elements, we'll make sure that those are eliminated, recreated in-house for sure.
The Rage Cast with Kung Fu Hot Dog.
Kung Fu Hot Dog, the Rage Cast, was actually going to be the name of the second channel if I didn't have a permanent warning on this one going forward. But actually what I'm going to do is just to incorporate these nice new segments throughout my tenure at YouTube, so you know I'm actually pissed, and maybe even taking the piss out of someone or an entity that fully deserves the wrath of Khan? Paul Tassi from Forbes, even he cannot defend Bungie anymore. If I were you guys over at that ridiculous studio, I would rebrand myself and actually eat a Marathon bar instead of renaming it Snickers, or in your case, the Sneaky Snickers. Marathon, the bar that was advertised by good-looking white people back in the day.
Roasted peanuts. Extra peanut taste.
Bungie stealing Marathon art is probably the last straw, and I couldn't agree more. This was actually published on May the 16th, which was yesterday. Marathon developer Bungie accused of and now admitting to stealing artwork used in the current build of Marathon from an artist who calls herself Anti-Real. Her work was published as far back as 2017. She's got portfolio digital proof of that, folks. It's insane. Now, what she says here, and I think the way she comes across in this article is really good. She has struggled for years to actually get her work out there, and to quote her phrase, it's parasites from the gaming industry just slither out and just grab her designs. They don't give her credit because they obviously think she's a dummy and she won't say anything. She wanted to bring a legal court case against Sony, who own Bungie now, but she doesn't have the funds to do that. Listen, N2, Anti-Real, I wouldn't even bother with that, love. Just wait to settle this out of court. Once it's and of course, what Sony are going to do, right? They're going to go through every fine strand, and just to make sure she's not some sort of a scam artist before they are forced to give a financial compensation. Sony at this stage are a dog shit company. They aren't the company behind Jak and Daxter or the original God of War games, Uncharted. They are now just a former husk of what they used to be. So I'm glad they're getting kicked in the nuts. It serves them right. So what she says here is, Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. Within a matter of hours, as this began to spread virally, Bungie issued a statement saying it was a former artist, because you got to find someone to blame, right? A patsy, who included the decals in a texture sheet that ultimately went into the game. The issue was supposedly unknown by the existing art team, but obviously many questions have been raised about all this as Bungie continues to investigate. Now, of course, folks, this is not the first time we've actually heard about video game developers plagiarizing art. I do believe Red Thread Games, the people behind Dustborn, even borrowed art from a GTA 5 online component, even using the Twin Towers that was represented in the previous version of a video game. I can't remember what it was, folks, but hey, look, I'm just doing things unscripted because that's how I like to be, raw and very unfiltered. But I'll tell you what, this is just laughably bad, isn't it, on the side of Bungie, because for now, I don't think this artist has anything to hide or to be accused of being a scammer. She actually has her own GoFundMe campaign or Kickstarter, whatever it is, that if you want to contribute, you can do so. But I just want to show you this screenshot here, folks, which is actually pretty interesting. So you've got the marathon footage, and all the diagonal lines are pointing out to what they actually ripped off from N2's original artwork from 2017. You got these upside down, I'm just going to call them upside down triangles right here. But what they've done, they've inverted them. So it looks like, hey, we can use that. That's no problem. You got this symbol here, which looks like a bad hammer. It finds its way into the design. It's been rotated at a different direction. It's incredible, isn't it? And it's insane. Like, they've taken all these decals and they've put it into the game that they're calling an original masterpiece. They've used the same font design. They've used the same word, which is so bizarre. And I don't know if this even goes down to the character design, which would be interesting if it is. So far, it's all to do with the decals. But I guess, folks, you know what I'm going to say. The devil's in the decals. It's all about artistry and the fact that you got all these people on various platforms like Instagram and DeviantArt who've got some amazing works out there, and it wouldn't surprise me that video game developers and their so-called team of talented artists are just scouring the internet for things to steal. Like, you could just ask the artist permission, like, hey, do you mind if we do this? But of course, you know what it is, folks. It's free enterprise, right? It's free marketing on the artist's part, but it's also free, greedy, I don't have to pay your dumb ass from video game developers like Bungie and Sony, who apparently just like to work on the cheap now to get their sloppy DEI games out in the open. I mean, I've looked at the marathon gameplay. It looks like absolute dog water. And it's funny, folks, because all of this talk about the first-person looter shooter called Marathon led me on a path down to something called Arc Raiders by Embark Studios. Embark Studios are based in Stockholm, Sweden. They're actually owned by the South Korean company Nexon. I've talked about them here many times on my channel. And look, that Arc Raiders game looks fantastic.
It's not that often I can say that a game has sunk its teeth into me as much as Arc Raiders did. They actually put effort in, and it shows. The game was originally announced in 2021 as a free-to-play PvE shooter set to release in 2022. It was then delayed so the studio could focus on their other game at the time, The Finals.
I can't say the same for the character designs because they're absolutely hideous.
Look at the top of his head. Look at his lips.
They're still conforming to the body type A and body type B because you can't just have male and female, right? It's insane. What's the matter with you, Sweden? Just embrace biology and common sense. But why I mention Arc Raiders, it's a third person looter shooter type experience. Not just even that, it's extracting, you can even play solo, but you work with somebody else or maybe work on your own. I wish there was a bit of a single player component to all of this. I might give it a try. I know they're still doing invitations for beta testing, so I might dive into it and see what it's like. But honestly, when I looked at the game, at first I thought I was looking at a Star Wars online component, right? Because it's got shades of Star Wars in there, but it's not, and it just looks fun. And then when you compare it to the shitfest that is Marathon, which just looks terrible. Why would you play that? I mean, even Mr. Matty Plays, he wants nothing to do with Bungie and Marathon.
I don't know. I'm out of things to say now. I fire this fucking game into the sun, dude. I'm not touching this piece of shit.
There's no way ever that Bungie are ever going to recover from this. I mean, my final thought here, folks, is this, right? If I was the CEO of a video games company, just say, for example, EA, right? I would actually oversee the recruitment process when it came to hiring artists. I would be that second guy in the room interviewing the artists, and I want to see their digital portfolio. I would actually put them in an in-tray exercise. If you don't know what an in-tray exercise is, folks, it's what governments used to do here for the civil service, where they would actually put you in a real-life scenario and get you to play out how you would deal with things in real time. And then if you actually pass the test, the final part of that session will be an interview that lasts for about maybe 15-20 minutes, and at the end of that you would actually know if you're going to be hired or not. And I actually did one of those, and I actually passed and got the job. And again, like Jade Raymond, I didn't stay there for very long. I left it after 3 months because I found something better at the time. So they should definitely get artists that they are potentially hiring to go in there and show them what they got. In fact, the Arc Raiders game is also developed by ex-DICE people. DICE, these are the same people who worked on such titles as Battlefield Bad Company.
I gotta say, I've never eaten snake. What's it taste like?
Didn't like it.
Chicken.
Didn't have much taste when I had some.
Now, everything that you taste, people say, oh, what does that taste like? Chicken. What does that taste like?
And I do believe Need for Speed, those games, they were involved with them in some way or another. And also the Star Wars games too, right? So you got that pedigree, and you're going to expect the best. Again, they need to kind of refine those god-awful designs for the Arc Raiders game. I'm sure the modders are going to come in and give us hot females and handsome males, because that's what you should do, right? But I wish that the best of luck. I think people are definitely, people at Embark are obviously looking at the failure and the scandal behind Bungie and Marathon. It's like, you know what, guys? You keep doing you, we're just going to do us. And I think it's going to be great. I think Arc Raiders is going to get such a massive boost from all of this. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's not like Embark Studios are free of sin, because they've got a video game out at the moment called The Finals, and it might have been, to quote Europe, the final countdown for that particular game, because Embark got called out by the Hollywood fraternity, who weren't hired to provide voice dialogue for their characters. What did Embark Studios do instead? They created their own through artificial intelligence, which I think is absolutely hysterical. But seriously, Embark, rework those character designs. They look absolutely terrible. It does make me wonder why Bungie parted ways with Microsoft back in the day. because they were claiming that Microsoft were just punishing them, crunching them. Money issues came up, right? And then they joined Sony. And yeah, of course, they gave us Destiny 1 and 2. And I look, me and Destiny, we don't see eye to eye. I played it when it first came out, but I wasn't really that enthralled by it afterwards. And yeah, Peter Dinklage as the ghost. Yeah, who cares about that shit? But you know what? I think Bungie, it's going to be, we're going to be holding a funeral for you soon, guys. I think by the end of the year, Bungie will disband as a gaming entity. They'll part ways with Sony, and that's it, because Sony can't stick around for more shit like this to hurt their brand, even though I would even say at this stage, folks, it's already a DOA brand. So if I were you, and if you were me, leave your comments below, leave your thoughts and your feelings about Marathon. Were you impressed by the gameplay? Arc Raiders, is that more your jam? And you know what? Arc Raiders does remind me of Titanfall, just a little bit. It's got those shades, and I fucking love Titanfall, especially number 2. But on that one, folks, if you were me and if I were you, you should definitely return for the next video.
To our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon took elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement and placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. The decal sheet included icons and text elements. These elements ended up in our alpha build, and there's absolutely no excuse for this oversight, and we are working on and 100% committed to our review process to ensure instances like this don't happen again on Marathon or at Bungie.
M-A-R-A-T-H-O-N
Peanuts and caramel.
Marathon.
Peanuts and nougat.
Marathon.
Peanuts and chocolate.
Comes up peanuts. Slice up the slice. Marathon.
Roasted peanuts.
Extra peanut taste.
Comes up peanuts. Slice off the slice.
Marathon.
Like, comment, and subscribe to the Kung Fu Hot Dog Ragecast. If you don't, Duke Nukem knows where you live.